I'm Dave Miller, Leadership Pathway, where we're all about helping churches find and develop and launch young leaders. And we do that through this thing called a residency. I have a super guest today. One guest was not enough for this conversation. I've brought two. Introduce yourself.
Paige Peltier,
Yep.
live an hour west of Chicago. My role with Leadership Pathways is Director of Candidate Relations. So what I like to say is that I get to talk with people at all stages of being interested in going into ministry and hear
Yeah.
their story and what God's doing in their life and then work with our church partners and with Tirza and kind of discerning the next best steps to help these people get their foot in the door into ministry. My background is in the church world. I was on a church staff for about 7 years, running internships and residencies. So I love the local church and I love developing leaders. And yeah, that's kind of been the theme of all my jobs.
I love it. Tirza Hortensius, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Tirza, and I'm located in Tacoma, Washington. And my role is church relations. So I work closely with Paige during the recruitment phase and getting started with a resident. So yeah, I'm just keeping both church and Paige closely in the loop on where we are with candidates. Hey, have you thought about this? Here's some resources, that sort
Great.
of thing. Just
What'd you
keeping
do
the ball
before this,
rolling.
Tirza? Well,
Yeah, I was in nanny recruiting for 5 years.
if you guys think recruiting a youth pastor is hard, just try recruiting a nanny. So Tirza comes at this with lots of experience. What church do you go to, Tirza? What's your church experience?
Yeah, I attend Anchor Church right here in Tacoma. Um, and yeah, I've been a part of actively serving within the church in a number of different roles, volunteering since I started going there 7 years ago,
Fantastic.
primarily in kids ministry.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm Dave, and my primary role is to meet churches and to help them answer this question of how they're going to do this and what is it. We spend anywhere from one conversation. Recently, we had one conversation. The church jumped in, which was awesome. We spend anywhere from one conversation to 18 months talking about if they're going to do this or not. And then they finally decide they decide to do it. There's some point along the way when someone looks at me and says, "Okay, man, we're in. We're in." And we've been talking about why they should do this. Staffing shortages, the next generation, the pipeline of leaders. They're frustrated with people that haven't stayed long enough. They know they need to be doing it. That's why. The why is pretty locked in, or we wouldn't even be talking. And then what is it? Well, it's a 2 year coaching agreement where the end result, the finish line is this person you're going to bring on your team and walk with them for 2 years. They're going to be hireable at the end of that. And we don't care if they have an MDiv. We don't care if they're a 50-year-old former insurance salesman or a 20-year-old college dropout. We vet them, we interview them, we get them, the church vets them, and we all agree this is God's man or woman for the season, for the next 2 years. We start walking together. That's what it is. It's a residency. It's like a teaching hospital, all of these things we talk about. At some point, someone looks at me and says, "Okay, man, so how do we do it? We're in. How do we get it? How do we do it?" And then I mean, we've been at this for 9 years. We've launched 190 of these. And even I, co-founder, supposedly, I get tripped up on that question. I'm like, how do we do it? That's sort of like, how do we raise kids so they're good humans in 25 years? So that's how I wanted to start this year in this webinar. And I'm glad that you have signed up. We had a huge response. And so we're going to talk about that as quickly as we can, as succinctly as we can. And these are the two people. Because in my job, once they agree, I just throw it over to, and I'm like, well, the thing you do is you talk to Tirza and she'll introduce you to Paige and everybody else. And we start. And we start. So the topic for today is how. How do we start these things at our churches? So let's just go 1, 2, 3. Let's try to think about this in succinct steps if we can. Okay. Tirza, I'm going to start with you because this is how we start every time a church agrees. Like, how do we do
Yeah.
it? I'm like, meet Tirza, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Can you describe the first thing that happens?
Sure. Yeah. I am really just beginning to collect data from the church. First, they're going to complete a questionnaire. So it's a number of questions. We just get a good idea of what their church is all about, from how many to where they're located, you name it. We're really just getting like a clear picture of who they are. And then I'm collecting some photos that represent what their church looks like and a logo and sort of building out a job description. With that information, we are posting that on our website at leadershippathway.org, .com.org.
.org.
Thank
Just
you.
edit that. Just edit
And
it.
then, um, yeah, from there, we are stage two or step two is for churches to then take that job post and post it on their website with what is called a landing page.
And then hundreds and thousands of people flock to these landing pages and start
Right.
applying.
And then the internet is broken.
And then the internet breaks and scene. No, we know that's not true. Okay, so what you're saying is step one, the church has to be clear, as clear as possible
Right.
on
Well, and
what they're looking for.
I would compare it a little bit to a dating profile
Mhm.
on a dating app or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
It's like putting your foot in the game of saying like, "Hey, we're gonna do this, and here's all about me. Here's some pictures." But it's kind of the first step of like putting your foot out there, saying we're gonna do this, and spelling out that clarity piece. I think is really important. What is it? Who are you? What would I be talking to or having a conversation with, or
Right.
potentially what's it going to look like for me as a resident?
In this process, I'm sure everyone watching this has hired, the majority, but almost everyone watching this has hired someone before. There's more than one person on their team. They've posted a job somewhere. They've taken a resume. They've gone through a process. How is what you're describing, Paige? How is it different for this kind of role versus a full-time person that's going to be on the team at the church? How is it different?
Yeah, I think it's different in a lot of ways. And we talk about this a lot in our master class, but it's like a whole different lens you need to look through in the interview. Because you're not looking for somebody who can boots on the ground jump in, but you're looking for potential, who can develop into somebody who can be hired full time. And so that's just a different mindset. And you're going to interview in a different way. You're going to know that there's going to be some hurdles. We talk about that a lot too, that there's going to be ways that this candidate yeah, isn't shiny, isn't perfect, hasn't done this before, but that's good because we want to train them and teach them in a way that's healthy and encouraging and meaningful. So yeah, again, you just have to think, where could this person be in 2 years? And I'll tell you, like when I write up candidate profiles, like so not every time, but a lot of times I get chills thinking and like writing to the church leaders of like, I can't wait to see where this person is in 2 years because they've got so much potential, but they just need somebody who's willing to have coffee with them for an hour a week, hear their life, hear what's going on, hear how they're experiencing things, and give them meaningful tasks. And yeah, debrief those things with them. So it gets me excited, but yeah, that person's gonna look different than a full-time hire.
For the leader watching this who is not allowed to just make these decisions, and there's a lot, even executive and top level leaders, they have to bring people along, you know,
Yeah.
before Tirza sends them the questionnaire, before they've signed something. How What have we seen work and what have we seen not work in terms of getting a church staff or a church family or a group of people on the page that they want to embrace this as well? What have we seen work? How do leaders do that?
I would say not to over spiritualize it, but pray. And I think we talk about launching a residency is not totally unlike launching a campus. Could you imagine launching a campus and not inviting your congregation to be praying about it? No, you couldn't. So let's not launch residencies without inviting our congregation into praying about it and our staff into praying about it. And just, I think that when you start uniting hearts around it and around God's heart for developing leaders in the church, starting there is going to be a lot healthier than some other ways you could start.
Right.
So I'd say that's essential. And
Good.
then,
I'm going to pray. I'm going to
yeah,
pray.
we're gonna pray. Invite people to pray. And don't just pray by yourself.
I'm thinking of, I was at I got to spend a couple days at Notre Dame, which they actually let me on campus, which was amazing. And turns out Notre Dame's been doing residencies for a long time. And I'm sitting there with someone who was just thinking about starting one of these at their very small church. And the professors, there were several smart professors in the room, and they brought out three-ring binders, probably, I don't know, at least a ream of paper in this binder. It was the big kind of binder, the one you need a
Mhm,
wagon
mhm.
to pull. Three of them, boom, stacked them up. And she says, there's the material we have developed over the last 20 years that contains everything you need to know to launch a residency. And this church leader looks at me and says, that's what we need. And I thought to myself, if that's what we need to launch a residency at a church, how much how much of this kind of work, obviously there's prayer. Step A. Tirza gave us step one, which is get the job. So maybe before that, step A is praying. Step B is some sort of framework program. And I think that's where I get hung up sometimes trying to answer this question because we've got a couple of books, that are coaching materials. We've got all kinds of MailChimp, all sorts of electronic things that take people through a curriculum that takes them through. How much at the normal church who's launching one of these, how thick is the three-ring binder before we ever start one of these, do you think?
Hmm. I like the image of that. How thick is the three-ring binder?
I think it's one page to start. Really, you just want to outline what's the mission, what's the vision, how much is this going to cost,
Yeah,
how are we going to do it?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it can just be a glossy handout.
A
Doesn't need
glossy
it.
handout.
It doesn't need hole punches.
Why one page, do you think?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to share it with church staff, your congregation. I mean, as many people as possible.
That's
So
right.
you want this to be simple.
Yeah,
It doesn't need to be complicated.
right.
Simple,
Yeah.
repeatable, concise.
If you're at a small church, there's an elder team that's going to have to decide this for you, right?
Mhm.
And we deal with church. We work with super small churches of 100,
Mhm.
maybe one that maybe a church plant at this point. It's not even hasn't even started yet. There's a deciding group of people. If you're at a big church, there's normally an executive pastor. Like the budget is big enough, they can slide some things around. We can spend 20 grand on this year. But someone has to look at this and go yes or no at some point. And my sense is if it's a three-ring binder that's super thick, you'll never get the decision made.
Mhm.
I have made the mistake of going into people's office when I was in ministry and on other people's teams, trying to describe something I wanted to do and not being clear, like you're talking about, Tirza. I couldn't say it in one sentence. I couldn't say it quickly. If I'm walking across the parking lot, the church I worked at, the first one didn't have an elevator, so it wasn't an elevator pitch. It was the walk to the car. I've got about 20 seconds to describe for this person. And it has to be that way from my sense. Eventually we might get it. We might have three. If you do residency for 20 years, you might and have full-time people doing it. You might have big binders someday down the road.
Mhm.
But do we need that to launch?
Yeah, no. And I would I've maybe for you guys, but for me during COVID, I feel like people were saying like we're building the plane while we're flying it.
Hmm.
Did people say that a lot to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like residency is very similar of like you're gonna build the plane while you fly it, but you do have to get it in the air. And um Dave and I we were just joking about this the other day with candidates. It's like when you've seen one candidate, you've seen one candidate. And I
Hmm.
think that's true with residents of like when you have in your image of like what this resident is gonna be, who they are, what they look like they may not be that. And so then you're going to be unwiring some of your stuff, like with even with education. That's a decision you can make as a church of like, are we going to do have them go through some kind of a formal education program or
Hmm.
not? And say yes, you're like, yep, we're going to do that. But then your first resident already has their doctorate. They're done with education. Like you're unwiring all that. You spent all this time figuring that out, and now you don't even need it. Um, And so there's that piece of like, yeah, you may un and end up having to unwire a lot of stuff that you built and planned. Um, and I was working with a church not that long ago that it was just taking a long time to find the right fit. And somebody from that church brought up a sense of like, okay, so what? We're gonna like look for the right person for a year, whereas we could have been developing somebody for a year.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
And I'm like, ooh, that's good.
That's
And
good.
thinking
Hmm.
about that in the sense of like, yeah, you can construct a residency for 2 years, but you could have developed a resident for two
Right.
years
That's right.
and kind of, spent a couple good weeks in the summer
Yeah.
building it out and then just kind of build it as you go. And that's the piece too that we love walking alongside churches. Like we've built a lot of these planes.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so you don't have to build it by yourself. We've done it. And so yeah, we can say like, you know, have this version of ginger ale on the plane.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a case study, a church of 500 with 5 to 7 employees, and we do one residency. And to your point, what'd you say
When you've seen one, you've seen one.
when you've seen one, you've seen one. And the way that that residency plays out in that organization, and let's just say it's the student pastor to be simple, the way that it functions, the way that it works, and then they add a second resident in the second or third year. Because a lot of these churches we've worked with, we have some people that are on number 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
The way it plays out, even in a church of 500, with just a handful of people, it could feel radically different. Why? Because the leader over each of these people are radically different people. Okay, so I'm going to do it. I'm starting to pray about it, and I get my plan on a page, and I walk it in there, and I get approved. Um, we talk about in our master class, which I'm going to post links to this in the show notes. What we're what we're talking about is a slice of this master class, which is a 2 day training. We're talking about just a piece of it here as quickly as we can. We talk about a vision grid. Is that what we call it? A vision? What do we call it? A grid.
Vision grid.
Vision grid.
How to
I have
start
to. There's a
vision grid.
decision maker that has to be sold. My boss, her boss, whatever. But there are other people who. Can you give me some examples when we talk about write these people's names on a grid? I'll share my screen. So we say who these people are in the left column. Who give us some examples, Paige and Tirza, of the people that have to be brought along in these churches, in these organizations, if we're going to launch, if we're going to start.
Tears, I'm kicking to you.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, your exec, your lead pastor,
Key volunteers.
yeah, key volunteers, small group leaders.
If I'm at a church of 500, there's 3 or 4 people I need to be on my team on this. I'm going
Yeah.
to say, who are they in column one? On a scale of 1 to 100, which, if you're around Leadership Pathway very long, we like to talk about scales and assessing things and where were we this time last year versus. But if one is they can't spell residency, they've never heard of it, and 100 is they were they know exactly what this is. Where are they? on that scale, and where do we need them to be? No one is going, just like anything in your organization. No one's going to be as passionate as you are about it. That's why it's called a vision. We're talking about something that maybe they've not seen yet. Where are they on this, and where do they need to be? You'll never get all of them at 100 in complete understanding. And most of the time, as the leader, you're not going to completely understand it. We don't either. We don't either. We've done almost 200 of these. I think we're still learning here. Where are they? Where do they need to be? The action column, column 3. What am I going to do to help? It's a conversation. We're going to read a book together. We're going to talk to some other people about residency, and by when.
Mhm.
When are we going to do it? Who are they? Where are they on the scale? The action of what am I going to do to bring them along, and by when?
Yeah, this was super helpful. So, yeah, before I was on the leadership pathway team, when I was on the church side, I attended a master class, and this is one of the things that was so helpful for me leading a residency. And just thinking, how can we sharpen it? How can we get it better? And there had been a position that had changed, and that person was not bought in on residency. They hadn't been caught up on why we were doing it, what was it about. And so that was my takeaway. I was like, I need to sit down and kind of go over
Good.
what I've learned at the master class and help bring her into, um, yeah, what we're doing. Which, yeah, you're just thinking through, yeah, whatever, wherever you are in launching, it's so key to have those conversations.
It's great. Tirza, once the job, okay, so once the job's on the thing, we're putting it out there. What are some things that you hear where it's gone longer than the church thought? It's taking longer than the church thought it was going to take. What are some things that you hear from churches in that situation, and how do you combat that when they've sold their team, they prayed about it, to Paige's point. They had a plan, they got it approved, they sold their team, and now we've got it out there, and where's the resident? Where
Yeah,
are they? Why aren't they here yet? What are some of the things that you hear, and what do you say in response?
right. Well, we teach church staff to constantly ask, who do you know who knows someone? Really, just through referrals is where we are sourcing a lot of our candidates. I mean, matter of fact, 40% of our candidates are coming from churches directly. So, that is just keeping your iron in the fire. You have to keep up with that. Essentially, starting with a list, and a way to do that is in a staff meeting. Everybody is asked the question, who do you know that knows someone? We're not necessarily thinking about the resident specifically, but let's start with casting a wider net of who do you know that knows someone. Write those names down. Everybody is responsible for making contact with those people and then doing it again and again and again.
Right.
Really, on a 3 weeks through every 3 week cadence is
Hmm.
what works best.
Paige, what
That's
was your
yeah.
experience when you were on a church staff before coming on this team, and when it comes to recruiting, and how has your perspective changed on any of that?
Yeah, a little. Um, in an ideal world.
Mhm.
I love the long recruiting game, which for me personally was most successful when I was involved in high school ministries as a
Mhm.
leader and getting to know the student leaders and who they were, investing in them because they were going to be my future interns, and those interns could be the future residents. And so knowing those people, working with our youth pastor in yeah, developing student leaders and inviting them to apply to be interns. And so I love that slow model over a lot of years. Um, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it is. How has it changed? Chapel Street was the church, a multi-site church of several thousand in
Mhm.
Chicago, established, old.
Yes.
It's an old established, big old established church. And now you're working with all kind. It's like you had an experience, and now you're having experiences with churches of 100, churches of 30,000. Some of these churches we work with, they're
Yeah,
like a denomination, uh, multi-site. Has it broadened to how this happens?
for sure. Yeah. I think it's broadened for how it happens. I think I kind of, as Tirza was saying, like the churches that we work with that are leaned into the process and don't just put it on the back burner or set it and forget it,
Yeah.
but who are constantly, door knocking and getting out there to figure out who that person is and seeing possibilities and I think part of it is having that open mind of what this person looks like and who they
Mhm.
are, what experience they're bringing. Um, that's been a joy to see and work with churches who have, yeah, again, maybe thought like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a Christian college graduate and that's gonna be my resident. But the people who are like, no, I've got the 50-year-old guy who is
Yeah.
selling insurance who like is on fire for the Lord
Yeah.
right now. Um, yeah, that's been really fun to work with churches that have an open mind of who they can develop.
If you think about all of this, I mean, we spend a lot of time. I mean, nobody's really full time, but there are people working full time, talking about it, months of talking to get going, right? And then weeks, months. I think the average search is 5 or 6 months, mainly because residents still sort of live a semester life. Most start in the summer, some start in December, January. We just had two start this week. We're recording this January 7th. So if you miss the summer, will you have someone in 8 weeks? It's probably going to be another semester. So sometimes these things drag on. It's a lot of talking, a lot of effort. And really, that's just getting to the starting line.
Mhm.
Really, we started thing, this residency thing. It's about this 2 year experience of being coached, modeling behaviors for, the field experience, not unlike a teaching hospital. But starting, I think people get hung up sometimes. They're so concerned about what if certain things happen. Hurdles. We would call them hurdles. What are some hurdles that hold people back at a starting line, and they're afraid to begin. They're afraid of the hurdle that's out there. Tirza, what have you heard
Yeah,
churches say to you about this?
sure. A hurdle can be host homes. That could be a hurdle.
Okay.
Um,
Housing. Where are they going to
yeah,
live?
yeah, housing. Where are they going to live? Yeah. Pay. I'm going to figure
Hmm.
out how we're going to pay this person.
Legally.
Hmm.
I want to answer it for you because I know you say this, Tirza. Sometimes when churches fill out their profile, it's like, meh. It can be like kind of boring and you're like, who's gonna want to do that? Or it becomes really unclear. So that's one thing I feel like you care about a lot is like, come
Yeah.
on, sell this.
Yeah.
Like, make it seem like a great opportunity. And there are things that are great, but people maybe undersell it or don't realize like what they're offering or what they can bring to the table. Yeah, you're good at noticing that.
Is there anything else from either of your perspectives? Like, man, we haven't talked about this. People have to know this to get going, to start a residency.
Don't start with looking for a host home or housing
Oh, that's good.
now. I
Yeah.
would recommend only searching for housing once you have the resident, just because it's not ever certain how long the search is going to
That's right.
be.
You don't
And
mean when they've already moved cross country and they're standing there. You mean who it's going to be at this
that's
point.
right.
We've
Yeah.
seen it break. We've seen one of those hurdles. We're like, we can't find anyone to host this nameless, faceless person that
Right.
may not even ever. So we're not going to do it. That has happened. And we're like, why would you focus on a host home? You don't even have a name yet. So
Yeah,
we've seen
this
that. Leadership Pathway has documents on all of this. That's what I always say. We have too much information really already, and we don't have a ream thick uh, spiral bound notebook. It's some digital things, and it's a lot of information about how to be legal, how to do host homes, meet these challenges as they come to you. Paige, you mentioned It's sort of like something about campuses. And for those
Mhm.
people that have launched campuses, they know the first campus is the hardest one. But if the first one goes well, the second campus comes pretty quick. Number two, three, four comes pretty quick after that. And I would say that in that way, residency is similar.
Residency and developing leaders is a hard thing to count, to quantify, to put in your report. Um, it's just squishy. And so I think about like going through the soft skills too. Like the soft skills are squishy. Some of those are really hard to measure. Whereas churches, we like to be able to measure some things. We want to measure how many people are in the seats. We want to measure how much money's coming in. And developing people is a harder thing to measure. And so I think that's a big delay for some churches is because it's not shiny, it's not um, as easy. But I think with the right heart behind it, you can bring people along in that. But it's going to be harder in some ways. So I think that would be a caution I would give churches
Yeah.
is that if you want to just keep counting things, this is going to fall to the back burner.
Well,
But if you want to develop the next
yeah.
generation, it's going to take a lot of work, but it's really going to be worth it.
I mean, it strikes me that people that work at churches and I mean, small companies, right? Even big churches or small, where we get hired, we get these jobs because we can get stuff done primarily.
Hmm.
Even statistically at a really big church, 1,500, let's say, it's a big church statistically. I mean, a lot of people watching this do not work at a church near that size. Even at a church with 15 or 20 people on a team, everybody's doing more than they should because it's a nonprofit, it's a church, it's how we work. We hire the most amazing people we can hire, and they start stuff and they start doing stuff.
Right.
And then at some point, they're an expert. Let's say 3 years in, they're a veteran leader. And now we're like, we want to hand you someone to develop. Look at their calendar, look at their
Right.
behaviors. How are they going
Yeah.
to do? So it's great compassion. I agree. I don't say it condemningly. I'm just like, I have compassion on that person because I never did it either
Mhm.
from age 20 to 34.
Yeah.
We were running
It's
hard.
so hard.
Some people could keep up and they're still in ministry today. Did I ever wake up on a Tuesday and think, what am I going to strategically do to engage the next generation and answer the question,
Right.
who's the next me? No.
Right. Or I think
No.
about, yeah, when I'm spending 2 hours, an hour over our regular one-on-one time with a resident who's crying in my office, did I get anything done?
Yeah.
No, nothing you can count or quantify. But like that's the stuff that develops and spending time one on one.
Listen, we've got a generation like never before. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be on a mission. They want to do something that matters. They're not chasing money, but they are looking for a mentor. They are
Mhm.
looking for someone who will do what Paige just talked about, sit down, look them in the eye, slow down, not look at their watch, not look at the clock on the wall behind them, and engage and show them how to do it. We hope you'll join us in this endeavor. There's a couple of links below the masterclass link. We've got 4 opportunities to talk about recruiting over the month of January. It's live. It's in over Zoom. Sign up, click on that. If we can answer any more questions, we're here. That's why we started this in the first place. Tirza, until next time, this is not the last webinar you're going to be on. Paige, thanks for being flexible. I know you've had a full day
You guys
with
are
all of the
flexible.
things,
Thanks.
and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Yeah, this is fun.
Peace out. And
And cut.
scene. That was good.
All right,
Maybe.
should we do a whole nother take from the top?
So sorry for the edits you're gonna have to make.
We'll edit, and it'll be
I
like
didn't even
Are you
understand
gonna
the
edit
question.
out the puppy thing that I said? You guys didn't really react well to
no, I
that.
was gonna bring in Sarah
You're like,
McLachlan's song in the background.
yeah, you're like,
In
okay, moving
the
on.
arms of
Oh,
an
way to go, you two, and your very conversational vibes. Sweating.
This is not the last webinar you're going to be on.
You got your solo one next month.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.